So, Verotika, it's a pretty grisly movie.
How grisly?
It's pretty grisly. Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Look, man, Glenn Danzig.
Yeah.
We can't take away the fact that Glenn Danzig is a living fucking legend
Yeah.
of music.
Yeah.
And
He's our boy.
I stress of music because now he has broken into the field of movie making, and he is definitely not a legend of movie making. Now, before all the Misfits fans and Soen fans and Danzig fans proper come and try to rip us a new beehole, because I know they can be a rabid as fuck, I'm going to lay it out on the line. We're Danzig fans. Like you say, he's our boy.
Danzites.
And we're not bullshitting. Like, we're Danzig fans.
Yeah.
Straight up. We like Danzig.
I'm looking at this, like, Misfits stuff you got up.
Yeah, I got a Misfits wall over here, look.
The one time I don't wear my Misfits shirt.
Yeah, the one time. It's all Brody and shit. I got all the Danzig albums except for 6 because it sucks donkey balls. But I have Black Acid Devil, which also sucks donkey balls. I mean, I should throw this away, but I don't.
I feel like that gives you
some street cred. Yeah, I got 2 copies of 4. I mean, come on, man. I got this thing.
Yeah.
I love Danzig, but look, if you're a Danzig fan and you take him 100% serious, you need to fucking you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because look,
it's bad
man,
for your health.
But really, man, he comes real stealth at you with some corny ass shit. And here's the thing about Danzig, man. Danzig is that guy that you knew in high school that was always brooding and moody. He liked metal. He wore black. He hung around the local, fucking, I don't know, 7-Eleven or Quick Stop and smoked outside trying to look tough. Whenever chicks ask him out, he would be like real crass with them. And 30, 40 years later, you roll back into town to visit the parents, and you go by the 7-Eleven, and there he is.
Yeah.
He's still there. He's still driving the same car and listening to the same music.
He's still there. Maybe he's yelling at bricks now.
But he's still there.
He's still there.
Yeah. Danzig is the ultimate edgelord that never grew out of it. And that's kind of part of why we like him. You know what I'm saying? He's unapologetically him.
Yeah.
I don't think he realized how fucking corny he comes off. But that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to be 100% cheese.
He's one of those few people that is at the same time genuinely cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like in his
he's a
history.
Person, he's cool because of what he's achieved.
Yeah, and he's got a voice,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time he is like hella corny.
Yeah, hella
like homie, you could just cut them kernels off and make yourself a little cup of corn,
Yeah, for real, man. Look, and that's just part of the course with Danzig. If you can't wrap your head around that, then you're blinding yourself to the facts. He's a corny ass dude.
Yeah.
He's that guy that takes himself way too seriously. And I know that some people are like, "Oh, Danzig has a sense of humor." Yeah, we know he has a sense of humor, but it's not very good.
Mm.
And it's displayed in this movie. And I'll put it this way: when he first showed this movie at a festival, people were laughing uproariously because it's terrible. Spoiler: the movie's bad, very bad. So they were laughing uproariously because it sucks. And he went on stage, and in good humor, he basically said, I didn't expect people to laugh at the parts that, weren't meant to be laughed at, basically. So he does have a sense of humor. When Danzig smiles, it's kind of a rare event, but, we understand he has a sense of humor. We're not fucking blind to that, but I'm going to say 99.9% of the time he takes himself way too seriously.
Yeah.
So when he sings about the shit that he sings about, part of us is like, this is cool if it was cool, if it was real or whatever, but the other part of us is like, damn, this is hella fucking corny, dude. And I like shit like the stuff he sings about the occult, the weird and esoteric. He sings about angels and devils fighting. I like that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm the first one to tell you it's hella corny.
Yeah.
Awesome, but hella corny. So, we got to get that out of the way. We are Danzig fans. We're not trying to insult Danzig. We're not trying to bring this movie down. In fact, we encourage people to watch this movie because it's so fucking abominously bad that it's a spectacle. It's a spectacle to behold. If you're a connoisseur of bad movies, this is one of those touchstones that you definitely want to hit upon. You definitely want to be the guy that saw, say, The Room, any Neil Breen movie, and this one.
It's interesting that you said that he's not a legend when it comes to film, but if he keeps going this way, he might be a legend when it comes to film, just in the wrong sense.
Exactly, man. And he might be because he is planning a vampire western, apparently, based on the success of this movie, and it did meet with some success. One, because it was dirt cheap to produce. We'll talk about that right now. And two, because people talked about it. The legend of sorts grew. Sometimes bad PR is good PR. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. So, I'm pretty sure they made their money back. And if not, they're going to make it back with the DVD sales. Danzig fans are going to buy Danzig shit, period. So they'll make their money back. And he's going to make another movie, and it's probably going to suck as bad, if not worse, than this one.
It's definitely going to be worse.
It's got to be worse, because this one had 3 different stories, and it couldn't even make a coherent story out of either, all 3 of them.
Any of them.
So imagine a full-length feature film? Shit! Anyway, what's interesting is this is not Danzig's first attempt at making a movie. He actually tried a few years back with a movie called Garouge. I remember being excited back then about it, but this was just kind of one of those things he always talked about but never made it. So I don't know what Garouge was about. I don't know if it's based on any of the comics that he's written. Yes, he's done that, and we'll talk about that right now. But it was a thing that was talked about. And then I remember seeing Cradle of Filth's movie called Cradle of Fear, and it sucked donkeys. And I was like, damn, I'm kind of glad that Danzig didn't make a movie, because it's probably going to suck worse than this.
More like Cradle of Feast.
Yeah, really, man. It was bad.
I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming it's a piece of shit.
It's a piece of shit. I mean, it's gory as hell. That's about the only good thing you could say about it. But anyway, so that's how it stayed for a while. Then, seemingly out of the blue, this announcement was made that we're getting a Verotika movie. Now, if you're a Danzig follower or fan, you know what Verotika is. Verotika is his comics label. He has a comics label himself. He's been publishing these independent, borderline, if not outright, overly violent and pornographic adult comics since the 90s, like 92, 93 maybe. I remember being a kid and going to comic stores. The very few that carried them would have them like in those wall slip cases that were completely blacked out, and you'd have to go and kind of sneak a peek in there. They were usually in black and white, but they'd have these grotesque covers and or
Faustian
and or overly erotically charged covers. And by that I mean these super exaggerated bimbo-esque proportions on the chicks, and if they didn't combine both elements, there was also that, we had the super erotic bimbo that just happened to be a monster, or the exaggerated bimbo that was fighting a monster and or commanding one. You could just tell what these things were, and they were basically childhood fantasies of an edgelord. And that's exactly what this movie is.
Edgelords, because he had several people
working. Yeah, there's several people working. He is the creative force behind Verotika, so you can attribute the bulk of the ideas that have been published to Danzig, even when other people carrying them out. But I've never read a Verotika comic. I just never have a Verotika comic. I've never have. So I can't tell you if this is a loyal adaptation. I do know that some of the characters in this have been seen before on the pages.
Oh, yeah.
But
expertly brought to screen, I must say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fuck Stan Lee. This is what we needed. Look, man, I don't know. I can't verify 100% how loyal this is to anything that may have previously been on the page. But I can tell you that Danzig essentially made a movie, and he thought that comic panels would translate to the screen perfectly, because that's basically what we get: static comic panels as movie shots, and the camera essentially only moves in and out of them zoom style.
Bizarrely too,
like
people gave shit to George Lucas for having like the shot here and then the reaction shot, right, that's it, very boring. I guess Danzig here, Glenn, was a little bit like aware of it, so he's like, oh, let's mix it up. Let's zoom in and out as it goes along. And I gotta give a little bit of credit. Sometimes it's okay. Very rarely, but occasionally you're like, all right, I get why that's kind of cool. But most of the time, freaking fundios, dude.
Yeah, and what's bad is sometimes you can recognize that he's replicating a comic panel style shot. And that would be cool. We've seen movies do it before, like Zack Snyder's Watchmen did it a lot.
Yeah.
But that, they made the shots dynamic in Watchmen. Here it's just like I'm seeing a comic panel, but it's going on forever and nothing's moving.
Yes.
And then, worst of all, there's no cohesive transitions between scenes. Instead, he just fades to black constantly. The most irritating thing about this movie to me, as a film fan, was the fades to black to transition to other shit. I know to the average viewer that means nothing, but maybe it will once you see this movie, because it happens so often that it's impossible to miss.
Yeah, it's like every scene. Well, first of all, the entire movie suffers from he doesn't know when to cut away.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So you'll just have like entire sequences of someone just standing there after they've said all their lines.
Yeah.
Like, like the classic line, this is a grisly scene we got here. How grisly, pretty grisly. And then it just cut, or it just stays there for like 85,000 eons.
Yep.
And then eventually it'll get blurry and then fade out.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't know how to transition.
It does this constantly. People will say what is supposed to be a shot that's supposed to take you to the next scene.
Yes.
And they'll just hold.
Forever.
They'll just hold for what seems to be literal millennia. And then it takes you to the brink of sanity where you beg for a cut. Then it'll fade to black and then take you to another scene. It's mind-boggling. And what's weird about it is that apparently we could blame the editor. Sure. Yeah. I guess like some of the blame must be on the editor.
Brian Cox is his name.
Brian Cox. Not that one,
no,
in case you're wondering. But if so, oldest editor that doesn't know how to edit. So maybe it is him.
Maybe.
But anyway, you could blame the editor. But apparently, according to reports from the set from people that actually worked on this movie, apparently Danzig was fucking stringent about holding the shots. Apparently the actors were uncomfortable with how long they had to keep doing stuff.
Yes, you could see that.
And there's, I heard those reports from someone that worked on the set before we ever saw this movie, like months ago. I told you about them. And when we saw this movie, they were verified. This guy that was leaking this information 100% was on that set, because you can see that almost every shot in this movie is like, dude, cut away.
There's in the final story, there's a scene where this chick, basically can't even call it a story.
We'll get into the individual stories, but the scene.
Yeah, there's a scene where this chick kills someone basically, and then she like rubs her blood all over her face, and then she's looking at herself in the mirror. And this goes on for at least, 10 minutes.
It feels like that. Yeah.
Maybe 5 minutes. But it feels like it's like insanely. Like she's just like looking at herself and going like this. Writhing on the floor like me when I fell earlier. And like in her face, you could see her being like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
After a certain point, she's just like, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Like she was already not a good actress. Nobody is in this movie. She was already not a good actress. So she's having a hard time selling this concept of looking at the effects of this blood as they rejuvenate her, but then she has to keep doing it. So she basically just repeats the motions over and over again, and it feels interminable. It could have been like maybe like 4 or 5 minutes, but it feels like you say like 10
15 minutes,
20 minutes. And that's not even the worst part of that segment. We'll get to the segments right now. As aforementioned, this movie was met with a riotous laughter wherever it was taken. And it seems, against type, we're used to Danzig being a very moody fucking person and not being very keen on people making light of him.
Yeah,
and
telling him to move his bricks.
Yeah, God forbid you should tell him to move his bricks. He'll just move out of the house. And then he'll angrily throw his bricks out. Look that up. It happened.
It's hilarious.
But he's not a guy that takes jokes well.
No.
But apparently he took this in stride, and I wonder if it's more like Tommy Wiseau just kind of eventually played into the idea that he made it shitty on purpose. I don't know if that's what Danzig's doing, but I know there's a hint of humor in this movie, and it comes off badly. So it's not intentional, man.
No.
He made this 100%.
This is like straight up.
Yeah.
He thought it was cool.
Yeah. And it just happens to be hilariously bad in the parts that were not intended to be funny. The parts that are intended to be funny, if you look carefully, they're not funny. Except for, I think, in the second story, there's this cop character. I think he was supposed to be insanely over the top and hilarious, because he was, and it felt like that character was written that way. But the writing is so bad that it's almost like you can't tell either one way or the other. But yeah. He was 100% serious with this movie, and it sucks ball dicks. That's right, not even dicks, ball dicks. Interestingly enough, this is not the first movie made based on the Verotika comic. I don't know if you knew that. There was a previous movie called Grub Girl based on his character.
Oh yeah, I did know
Grub
that
Girl.
somehow.
Yeah. This was made by it was a porno. Let's just say that. Which honestly, this movie should have been a porno.
Yeah.
It should have been Danzig directing porno. And I'm not one to say, yeah, porno rules. Oh yeah, I am one to say that. And porno does kind of rule, but
it would have sucked anyway. But
yeah, it would have sucked, but there would have been
something to look at.
Funny porno is very entertaining. Unintentionally bad or intentionally bad porno is entertaining. See, now you know why I like stories in porno, because it could be hilarious, dude. It could be either intentionally or not hilarious. And this plus porno would have just taken it to another level. However, what we get is the equivalent of, a neutered version of his comics, which I know go the extra level of grossness and violence and erotic things. So it doesn't deliver on that aspect, but it does deliver on the unintentional shit. Back to Grub Girl. Grub Girl was directed by Craven Moorhead. Just wanted to mention that.
It's a good name.
Best name ever. Anyway,
Craven Moorhead.
It should have been that, dude. It just should have been that, is my opinion. But whatever. What they did end up doing was make, he cobbled together a couple of investors and himself. And, they got together some scratch, and they went out and made this guerrilla style, basically on the fly, on the cheap. And so I guess we can tip our hats to that, man. Not everybody makes a movie. Not everybody has the money to make a movie. Not everybody should make a movie. But he did. So, we haven't done that. So we respect.
Oh, dude, it's coming. It's due. Trust me, I got the plot already. It's about a chick who just stands in front of a mirror and goes like this for like 5 hours.
Yep.
And I play the chick.
Already better than this movie.
Yeah.
This movie was shot, literally on Skid Row. Like, I'm talking like on Skid Row. This was shot on Skid Row to save on costs.
I am, mommy.
To further save on costs, he cast a bunch of porn stars, apparently daytime soap opera stars and shit like that. X-Pac from WWE is in this fucking thing.
We popped when freaking X-Pac came on.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Crooked ass penis should have shown up though.
This isn't an anthology movie, so anthology movies, multiple stories in one movie. And anthology movies usually have a horror host. We get a horror host here. I forget her name, Marilla or some shit. I think she's an established character in the comics. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But she's played by porn star Caden Cross. And you'll see porn stars across the board. And not even like Belladonna and Stoya. They got out of the fucking porn business and went into, I'm going to say more legit endeavors. But even that didn't stick. Now they're just doing schlock. But you have those people at your disposal, or at least people.
They wouldn't do that.
No, I know not them, but I'm saying like you could have a little bit more oomph to your cast. You got Kane Cross, I guess, but even that's a little low tier.
Freaking, I was expecting at least a Danzig cameo.
Yeah, at least give me a Danzig cameo, but no, nothing of that. So even the porn star stunt casting doesn't even pay off as anything interesting.
It's stinky.
And now, if you're here thinking, well, we can enjoy this for the gore or the tits and ass.
Nah.
Gore? Nope. Tits and ass? Look, man. Everybody has different tastes in terms of the physical.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody out there that likes huge undulating blobs of goo like us.
They're stroking off hard right now.
But there's a like to everybody. So I'm sure somebody likes the girls in this movie. But through and through, there was some some, not great
look,
looking chicks.
I gotta say, as a dude who is desperate to get any kind of ass, whether it be male or female at this point, I don't even care. I gotta say, out of the people in this entire film, I would probably bang one person.
Yeah, and that's like maybe if I had to.
And that's just because like the bar was set so low that you're like, I guess I would hit that.
As is typical of Danzig, as you would expect from the things that he likes drawn on his comics, the way the artists that work for him draw the females that he writes, these are grotesquely disproportionate, huge tittied bimbos with ugly, big fake lips.
I gotta give him some credit, like in the first story, which is hilarious. He cast someone that looks like one of his freaking drawings.
True, yeah. I mean, there is that. Like, if you want loyalty to the way the characters look, then I guess so, man.
Insanely large tits with eyes, and giant fish lips.
Yeah, it's not the greatest menagerie of hotness. If you're, unless you're into bimbos, then the bimbo look. I mean, then I guess you're good. Somewhat. Even then, not really.
They're not even good bimbos for the bimbo fan out there.
Yeah, if you're a bimbo fan, again, I mean the aesthetic.
Yeah.
This is not going to deliver on that as end either. But anyway, let's talk about the stories individually. Oh, by the way, just a side note. That guy that reported that Danzig would hold the shots too long, and that he also reported that Danzig was very cantankerous on the set, and that he would isolate himself, and when they'd ask him for direction, he would refuse to speak, other than to like maybe the camera operator or something.
Damn, homie.
And he would pout and cross his arms a lot, and linger and brood in dark corners, and I'm like, damn, that is so Danzig.
Yeah.
This guy was not a Danzig fan. He was just a guy working on a movie, got hired. And everything that he described at that time, when I read that a month ago, I was like, this guy definitely was around Danzig. Here's the one that really sold it for me. Apparently, people on the crew were trying to be like, knock some reason into him. I mean, these are seasoned crew guys trying to be like, damn, this movie's going to suck balls, yo. So they were trying to help. And he didn't take very well to the advice. Again, very Danzig. And apparently, to really set himself as the alpha male and intimidate them between shots, he would practice karate.
Damn.
Like, on his own. Shadow boxing, apparently, and shit.
Shit.
And I'm like, damn, that is Danzig, dude. The guy.
The only thing that would make that more Danzig is if, like, he had some lame latex claws on.
Yeah.
That clearly cost a lot of money.
Mesh shirt,
yeah. Super out of shape.
Yeah. Anyway.
We gotta start wearing mesh shirts, but get our Danzig look.
I'm definitely wearing a mesh shirt underneath right now, but that's just because I've stretched the limits of the fabric.
Yeah. If you take off your shirt, it's just a bunch of little flesh, little weenies coming out of the mesh.
God damn, Play-Doh.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 3 stories in this fucking thing. We're gonna just shoot down every one of these. The first one is called The Albino Spider of Dejet. Dejet is the kind of like, I guess, your protagonist, your main star. She's a prostitute, by all accounts, that keeps on getting rejected by all her clients because she has, wait for it, eyeballs where her nipples are.
And that's just a bomb that they drop on you. Like, you're just like, oh, yeah, she's got the serious case of the eye nipples.
Yeah, and the line's great. Like your teats are looking at me.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, this first story is apparently set like in Paris or some shit.
I guess.
And why would you do this? Like, rewrite the thing so that it's in America, because none of your people are French.
No.
So they're all doing this super exaggerated the French accents.
Yeah, there's little entire sequences where like the scene ended and or faded away, I should say, into obscurity
and cut to black.
And I was just like, what did they say?
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm not a hater of the French, though we've shat on them many a time.
French stink.
It's not good. But it's because you can't understand it because of the terrible accents.
Yeah. So you think my French accent's annoying?
No,
imagine everyone doing a French accent and they all suck at it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that reasoning, but he did it. And anyway, this French prostitute keeps getting rejected by all her clients because she's got eyes on the titty syndrome, apparently. Yes, eyes. And because she is so saddened that her titty eyes are causing this.
This is a thing that actually happens. This is what's coming.
I thought you were in agony.
Oh yeah, I broke my foot from when I fell earlier.
So she's so fucking melancholy at being dejected that she starts crying, and in like a total like high school art student move, the camera moves down her titties, and they're crying.
Yep.
And then Danzig chooses to defy all logic and physics because, like she's sitting on a couch next to like a little fucking table over here.
They've established that there's a spider on a rose to the side.
Yeah, there's an albino spider on a rose on the side, and the rose is like here.
Right here, yeah.
Her tits are at like this level, right?
There's a spider right here.
Yeah, and her tits are crying here, yet somehow it cuts to a shot of the rose, and a tear falls on the spider.
So I can only assume that this shit's got freaking omega beams for freaking tit juice.
Yeah, them shits is like fucking jagged. All of a sudden, the tear is on the fucking spider. Anyway, this tear brings this spider to life, and the spider is like a reflection of this chick's inner anger and bottled up feelings of aggression at this rejection.
And you know this because he tells you for about, I don't know, 85 hours.
Yes.
It literally stands there and tells you, this is what I am.
Yes. So, yeah, the spider becomes this, six-handed fucking humanoid creature, and he hovers over her and, yes, literally soliloquies exposition to her about him being everything that she wants to be, and that he'll take care of the people that hate her.
I think that sequence, it sucked. It was horrible and atrocious, but I kind of can see that working with someone else doing it. Like, you know how in The Crow, when he's like going after people and he's like giving off these monologues and kind of like like indulging and shit. Something like that could have worked for that character, but in this movie, it sucks. It's like, dude.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we get what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Two, surprisingly, the images translate well, quote unquote. So we get what's going on. So we didn't need that much exposition. One line, two would have sufficed, if that. But yeah, it feels very comic booky. But then it goes over the edge by just. He harps on it. Yes. And that's not the only time he does it. Every time it seems that he appears, he's back at explaining what he's doing. And by the way, he appears when she goes to sleep.
Yes.
So now the chick is afraid of going to sleep because every time she does, somebody gets killed. Here's the thing. He said that he was going to take care of the people that hurt her.
Yes.
But he
just kills random people.
No, he goes around killing prostitutes.
Yeah.
And the first person he kills his friend. I'm sorry, her friend. Is her friend. Yeah. The only person that showed her empathy.
Yeah.
Now we've seen.
And then the other people are just people you never see.
Yeah, just rando people, but you understand that they know her. Like there's these models that are during they're doing a photography session type of thing, and they know her because she's there. Apparently, she also does photography, I guess. But anyway, they know her. And so there's that. Like, why is he hurting people like this? And then, yes, random ass people. Like, why did he hurt that person? I don't understand. So it just becomes a fucking atrocious mess. Not that it wasn't already, mind you. But, yeah. So anyway, let's talk about the effect of the guy. It's a spider guy, a grotesque spider guy. Take it away, Johnny.
Look, I kind of like this spider guy. I think like the makeup in the face is okay. It's decent. It kind of looks like a shitty Art the Clown, a little. I was kind of like mildly impressed by the face stuff. And then you got to go to the body, and he's like this 6-armed dude, right? Kind of have like this weird kind of muscular, and that looks okay. But then the arms are just like hanging. Yeah. Like obviously you're not gonna have a 6-armed guy on set, so you have just like these hanging hands. And like in some shots it looks fine, but homie Danzig has like a freaking obsession with filming everything in wide, like just wide shots. Yeah. and not filming around limitations, aka the entire movie. So you just see these hanging arms that look like straight up dookie logs because he's not filming around it.
Yeah, so the impression you get is that this fucking spider guy has got 4 gimp arms out of his 6. Because they're literally just hanging and bobbing around and... You know, there's no puppeteering, none like that. And I get there's limitations, but like you said, shoot around it, fucker.
Or like put a freaking rod in there.
Anything would have been better.
Stand up instead they're just like this.
Yeah.
And the dude's trying. I think he's like one of the better people in the movie. Maybe the guy in the suit. And the suit's okay. It sucks. And there's a wide shot, of course, because that's all Danzig can do in this first one. That changes later. Later, you just get zoom-ins and outs. But early on, you just get wide shots. And, of course, that's the one short that shouldn't have wide shots because homie's freaking pant area on the suit, it's got a big-ass hole.
Yeah.
And homie's freaking underwear, his boxers are just peeking out that hole. It's like, dude, trim it!
And it's the worst because it's the culminating scene in this first story. And it's, like, really our first... like full body shot of the guy. I mean, we've seen the majority of his body, don't get me wrong, but it's literally from head to toe shot of this spider guy,
like straight up in
the
light.
And his suit in the crotch area, he's not exaggerating, it's like fucking torn, like bad, and you can literally see his boxers coming out. Like how do you see that and not go, let's not shoot a full body shot?
Yes, and that's really the whole thing. You get that with the whole effect because of the arms, but in particular, because it's during an important scene. Of course, nothing in this movie is important, but it's during an important scene, and homie's boxers are like on full display. Like, dude,
it's so bad.
Tuck that shit away, homie.
And it's funny because that scene is, I mean, there's not really a big story here, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's this final confrontation. The guy's going to get killed. The spider guy's going to get killed, basically. And some people with guns, a.k.a. cops, bust in. And there's like, in a regular movie, it would be they bust in and it cuts to the spider guy attacking. But here, it's they bust in, they linger on the shot of them pointing the guns, then they cut to the spider guy, and he's like this for at least 2 dreadful seconds, which in movie time is a lot. And then he runs. Yeah, it's like, oh, dude. Here's an interesting fact. Danzig actually studied photography, so he should know how to light things. And there's some nice lighting here, like comic book style lighting, but it's not employed very well.
No. There's a scene where this hoe, literally a prostitute.
Yeah, she's a prostitute.
Is like in an alley and she's talking to the spider guy, the albino spider, right?
And by this he means that she's here at the what is it called? The foreground of the camera, and in the background in the alleyway next to her, she's just hearing what she thinks is a John talking to her.
Yeah.
But then eventually she does peek over and look.
And there's this, of course, wide shot of him in the alley, and he's backlit with like this purple lighting. Mm-hmm. And it could have looked cool if it was darker.
Yeah, if the spider guy needed to be in darkness, and he's not.
But like he is fully visible, so you can see all the shitty gimpy arms.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no hole in the crotch yet. But he's hanging out there, and it's got this kind of okay looking purple lighting. But his body is fully lit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look cool. The backlighting doesn't make sense.
And it's all the more ridiculous by the fact that she looks over.
Yes, and doesn't see a big spider guy.
Yeah, and he's like real close too.
Oh yeah, just like, what up?
Just baffling decisions with the lighting, which we'll get into more with the second thing. But overall, this first dreadful installment is possibly the one that feels like the most complete story of the 3.
Yeah.
This quickly deteriorates. By the time we get to the third story, we have to use the word story in quotes, but we'll get there. This is possibly the most complete story.
Yeah, it has a beginning, it has
a middle, and an end.
Kind of a middle and then an end.
It's all bad, and it feels like you're watching just garbage on screen,
And then at the end, garbage that thinks it's kind of deep, though. Because there's like you said, that scene early on where she's crying and then it like pans down to the nipples. Yeah. You're like, that's corny. and then later on, like there's a repris of that line of your tits are looking at me, basically.
Yeah.
With the cops, they're like, oh look, her tits, their eyes. And you're like, really, dude?
Yeah, it's so bad. The dialogue is horrible. The acting is horrible. There's scenes that are blocked so confoundingly awful that you're like, who worked on this? Answer Danzig. There's a scene where they find, I shouldn't say find, but it doesn't matter. Look, everything in this doesn't make sense the way it's shot. So that's the long and short of it. First story is a stinker, but as it turns out, it's the most rounded of the three. The second story is called Change of Face, and that's about the long and short of it.
More like change of movie.
Yeah, it needed to be a change of pace instead of a change of face because it's stinky. Look, man, the long and short of this movie there's a chick, a slasher chick going around killing other chicks and stealing their faces so that she could put those faces over her burned and hideously marred face. And I say that in quotes because her face just slightly scarred.
Yeah, like her hideous face is like 10 times better looking than the chick's face from the first story that's supposed to be hot.
The first chick she kills for her face. Yeah, agree. I would have been like, just keep your normal face, chick. Yeah. Like, I would totally hit that chick.
Yeah, she was right.
With a 2x4 to the face because it's hideous. No, but, and what I'm saying here is, homegirl didn't need to go around slashing faces because, the scarification on her face wasn't that bad. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's like, no Phantom of the Opera business
there's a point where you just got to suck it up. You got a burned face. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's literally the gimmick. This chick slashes other chicks' faces off to wear on her own. Then she apparently moonlights as a stripper where her gimmick is the mystery girl. And she comes out. I can't believe they didn't touch on this. I mean, I can because it's a Danzig movie. That's now a thing. But you'd think that her being a stripper, going out as a stripper and being the mystery girl, that she would just let people see her different faces every night. That would be the allure of them coming back. Oh, the mystery girl is going to look different today. But no, she hides her face upon which she is wearing a skinned face on.
It also doesn't make sense because like she wears different people's faces, but they just look like her face.
Yeah, they just look like her face. And by the way, when she takes them off, it's just this horrible edit. I mean, not horrible in the lingering sense, but it's just bad because the effect of her bringing the skin off her face is like completely different to the effect of the skin on her face when it's on her unskinned face. What I'm saying here is, imagine if Leatherface took off his face or took off his leather face, but the moment he put it down, it looked like a completely different color.
Yeah.
So when she's wearing the faces, it just looks like her. 1, 2, they're pale. You could see where supposedly the face is being added to her face, but then when she takes them off, they all look like these gangly, cheap Leatherface knockoff things, and you're like, how does that become that?
Look like los cueritos,
Yeah, fucking little jar of cueritos,
Anyway, cuerito reference, dude.
The one great thing about this quote-unquote story is that there's a cop character that's on the trail of this slasher, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And by the way, worst cop. It's clear that Danzig understands nothing of procedural cop, and you don't have to write a movie. It's nonsense sometimes. Movies are not accurate to how police work is most of the time. But boy, howdy, man. Nice. This is literally just cops just talking to each other about, oh, yeah, look, got faces off. I guess we have a killer.
This is a grisly scene.
Grisly scene we got here, guys. How grisly? Pretty grisly. And there's this other scene where the slasher chick has killed another chick for her face, obviously. And they're standing in this crime scene for what seems to be about 70 million eons.
Yeah, they're already packing up the chick.
Yeah, already packing up the body. And then some random chick, which I guess was supposed to be like a fucking CSI chick, cop. Yeah. I don't know. She picks up a card and she's like, oh, look, it's right next to the body, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, look, what is this? And it's the card that leads him to the strip joint.
Somehow they didn't see this. Despite the fact that he's literally standing right next to it. And they've already clearly looked through this entire crime scene because they're packing up the chick.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, somehow they didn't miss. Somehow they didn't see this fucking card
Also,
on a fucking rug.
Yeah, this leads to him, finding the strip club, which, by the way, it's a shot of him standing in front of this sign, fakest sign ever.
No, he's standing in front of a wall, and there's a CGI sign on the wall that's
sign.
supposed to be real, and then it's telling you that this is the strip joint.
You're just like, that's clearly CGI.
Yeah. And so he goes to the strip club, and he literally asks for the mystery girl. How did he know her name? Did I miss something?
No, he just suddenly knew.
Yeah, he just suddenly knew that the mystery girl, quote unquote, the stripper, literally calls herself the mystery girl. That's how creative this movie is. By the way, when we started this and we first heard that the slasher chick calls her, when she's a stripper, calls herself the mystery girl, I said, man, she should at least call herself Mysteria. Well, that came up later. But anyway, a fucking mystery girl. He asked for her somehow. And, this leads to a confrontation eventually. Some stuff happens in between. Xbox pops up for a cameo that
was a thing.
Was possibly the most exciting thing in this movie.
Yeah, it really was.
Because we're dorks. But it sucked. Don't get me wrong. But anyway, yeah, dude, we're popping for fucking Xbox. Dude. That's how bad this movie is.
I gotta add something before I continue because we're skipping like 99, mind you, for good reason.
I already know what you're gonna say.
99% of the story, which is just stripping.
Yeah, I was gonna say that at the end, and yeah, that's true.
Yes. So like, keep in mind that while all these story beats are happening, there is insane amounts of horribly unsexy stripping.
Yeah. So you get strippers that don't look great, and you see all of them perform, including the mystery girl, in between the slashings and the cop things, which are like, I don't know, 5% of the movie.
The rest is
just stripping.
Again, like me gyrating around or maybe writhing on the floor. Like
now, as a Danzig fan, I would have loved to hear during any of these segments new Danzig music.
Yeah. You get one song.
One song.
In this entire movie. In the first story, there's like a rip-off Rob Zombie. In the second one, there's a rip-off Marilyn Manson.
Third one.
It doesn't matter. And yes, you get one new Danzig song.
Yeah, that's it. Everybody else is like people we've never heard of, and aren't good, by the way.
Yeah.
Or some of them are okay, but pretty much not good. And then there's some new score stuff, but it's not
great.
It's not cool score stuff like Black Aria that he did previously. So it's just there. One new Danzig song. You'd think the strip joint scenes would at least had a few Danzig songs, even if they were old. Fuck, man. Anyway, yes, the guy shows up to the club. He asks for the mystery girl. One of the strippers warns the mystery girl. God knows why. I guess they like her because they're strippers. I don't know.
I guess.
And she managed to run into what appears... Oh, my God. Yeah, she runs away from the cop. The cop eventually corners her by opening a door into what appears to be a void.
Yes.
It's literally a room that's completely dark. There seems to be no walls.
And this is one of those moments where it's straight up comic book.
Yeah.
Like, literally, he opens the door into a Frank Miller panel.
Yeah.
Just blackness.
Yeah.
And there's a shot later when he's calling out to her, and there's a shot with her, like, face coming into light. A straight up comic.
Yeah.
And that was okay. That looked fine.
It was okay, except he ruined that even as well, because the cop's like, where are you, or whatever the fuck he says. I don't know what the fuck he says, because I forgot, because this thing's already like going into the banks of my memory that are literally banks to be sealed forever.
Yeah.
He's calling to her into this void, and she like, you see her from the side pop up here, what should be his peripheral vision, by the way.
Yes.
Then she charges at him, yet somehow... all of a sudden is behind him.
Yes, she teleports behind him.
Yeah, and she starts to cut his face, and then they show a shot of his hand with a handgun, and he shoots
into the void.
She's behind him. He shoots forward into the void, and somehow she's bleeding and wounded. All of a sudden, she runs away. Yes. And you're like, how?
And he's like,
is it the titty tier rule again?
Yeah,
what the
dude,
fuck?
Like, there's this entire freaking world is made out of like super insanely strong walls and shit that just bounce shit off. Or maybe they all got ricochet shots from freaking Judge Dredd. So yeah, you get this scene of her like running away and shit, and then he's like, "I'll get you," and then it like
cuts to 6 months later. It's a different strip joint, and now it's the stripper, no longer called Mystery Girl, but called, yes, you guessed it, Mysteria. I was like, damn, I could read Danzig's fucking mind. And she's just doing her thing, and that's it.
Yeah,
that was the end.
She's got like some bullet wounds, and then like there's this weird shot where like it shows her face. She's got a new suit, by the way. It's like a fake katana suit. It cuts to her face, and then like, or like it's down here, it doesn't matter. It pans up to her titty because Danzig, and her titty is crying? Question mark.
Yeah, there's a weird like. I hope it's sweat. But I don't know anymore.
Yeah, the thing is, normally we would just be like, oh, her tits sweating. But the fact that the first movie had eye tits that cry made us go, what?
Yeah, what was up with that titty?
Also, like, that's it. That's the story. Yeah. She just lives.
And I don't mean that in the Michael Myers at the end of Halloween way. No. I mean that in the... This has no fucking... what do they call it? Resolution.
No, nothing.
It's just like that's it. She's stripping. The cop didn't get to get his revenge. Nothing.
I even said as a joke, it would have been funny if she was wearing the cop's face, but that would have been a resolution to the story.
Yeah, anything.
That would have been way more freaking satisfying than what we got. Though ridiculous, you would have been like, oh, okay, that's funny. She won.
So that was it, man. That being said, despite this having a non-ending and being virtually a non-story, shoehorned into strip sequences. This was kind of my favorite of the three because that cop was pretty fucking cool.
The cop was pretty great. And
intentionally or not.
And it had X-Pac.
Yeah.
I get it because X-Pac's my boy and that cop was my boy. Mm-hmm. And it has that classic scene, the grizzly scene, of course.
Yeah.
But...
Also, this is the movie where this is the part of the movie where you actually see the intentional humor that doesn't work.
No, it's bad.
Unless that cop was also intentional, which I think he was, man.
No, dude.
The grizzly sequence, the way he delivered, I feel like the cop was intentionally funny. But this is the only one where you clearly see it. That being said, yeah, I gotta say this is my favorite one. It was the one I had the most fun with.
Look, I can't because of the 99% of this movie that is just horribly unsexy, penis destroying sex, stripping. Like if it was just condensed to those 5 minutes of hilarity, then hell yeah, best one. As is, I gotta give it to my boy Spidey still, dude.
Damn, Spidey.
It's bad. Don't get.
I will
they're
say
both
this,
shit.
though. I don't know if you'll agree with this opinion. I think this one is the one that made the best use of effects. One, because, again, they tie into the motives of the killer. They're simple. Even though they don't work 100% of the time, you could see this being forgivable in a better movie. Unlike Spidey's guy's fucking torn-ass pants with his boxers sticking out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway... you're still Team Spider. I'm still Team Slasher, I guess.
Last thing that we should mention is, for some ass reason, not only does he continue and freaking amplify his use of fade outs with a fuzzy effect, but now he's also adding lens flare, like insane amounts of lens flare.
This needs to be mentioned again. I stress, Danzig studied photography. There is no excuse for lens flare. There's lens flare that's used in an artistic way. I know there was a big controversy about J.J. Abrams using it in the Star Trek Kelvin timeline movies. It actually looked pretty cool in that. And you want disruptive, ugly lens flare? This fucking thing has it over. There's even parts of, especially this story, because there's, I guess, so many lights in the strip joints and shit. The mirror lights and all that shit. There's parts where you can see him adjust the camera just to get the lens flare out of the way, but it only causes more lens flare. There's parts where the lens flare is straight across the middle, across the top. There's a part where it's sandwiched in between.
I'm like 99.9% sure that I have been here before, like that twist. Nope. But also that it was an intentional thing, the lens flare. I think he tried to make each one look completely different. So the first one's got this really blue looking look to it, right? The second one's got this weird kind of like the lens flare heavy. It almost looks like a movie from the 90s at times, like in that scene in the beginning. It's got this kind of weird fuzzy look. Of course, the last one just looks like ass. So I think it was like an intentional thing, dude. The lens flare.
I don't know, because there were so many lights in the second one and there was lens flare in the other two. It's just, especially the first one. It's just there wasn't a lot of lights for the flare to come off of. I don't know. Either way, there's no excuse for it in that portion. There just isn't. It's ugly. It's disruptive.
Oh yeah, it's a piece of shit,
and it looks horrid.
But the reason why I say that is because like it starts off with a huge scene where it's just lens flare and a shadow, and it's trying to be cool. And there's several scenes like that where it's like, it seems like it's intentional, but it's Danzig, so I don't even know.
Yeah, it's ugly either way.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit.
So anyway, we go to the third vignette, and it's god awful. Every problem that the other two had, this thing just pushed it to the max. The third vignette is called Drukija. I guess that's how you call her. Drukija. I don't know. Drukija, Countess of Blood. If you're familiar with the story of Elizabeth Bathory, imagine that, only they took all the interesting parts out and just focused on the bathing in the blood of virgins part. And that's it. There is no story to this movie. It is about a countess who takes chicks from the village and bathes in their blood. And it's just scene after scene of her bathing in their blood forever, interminably long sequences. That this is the one where I feel that they went on for like 10 minutes or some shit like that. Like, holy shit. There is no plot to this. It doesn't end. It's just a thing that happens.
Yeah, like it starts off with her like writing for like 50 hours, but that's not important. It starts off with her buying someone from the village, right? And I assumed that was going to be important, and it wasn't.
Nope. First person she kills.
Yeah, first person she kills. And later on, there's a chick who escapes from her hold, I guess. And it's just a random chick you haven't seen before.
Yeah, and you pointed out that it would have been wise, maybe, to make the chick that escapes the same chick that she first bought from the village.
Yeah, so that at least there's a through line there.
Yeah, there's no through line.
It literally just, when they catch the chick, they just kill her.
Yeah,
again.
They kill the chick. She bathes in her blood and like I can only imagine to be Danzig's real bathtub.
Yeah.
Then they bring in another chick. By the way, she selected the chick from the village from her, menagerie of chicks. They choose that one for her to bathe in the blood of. She's doing that for 500 years, dude. Just, you could tell the actress is like, what am I doing? I'm still doing this? Then her guards and her right-hand woman bring in another chick. And you're like, why did she have to pick someone if they're just going to bring in other chicks in the midst of her bloodbath?
And then she cuts her throat.
So she's still in the bloodbath, but then she cuts that chick's throat
and bathes in it.
And bathes in that blood. And you're like, what?
For
Why?
like 80 hours.
Yeah, 80 more hours of bloodbath. And then we get another chick. It's just her walking to this other place. And then there's a chick hanging there. And then she cuts her throat and bathes in that blood.
And that's it.
And that takes a little bit less time. But that's probably because they ran out of blood pumping out of the chick's throat. And you could tell she was like trying, like, dude, fuck, I'm supposed to still be bathing, but not enough blood is coming out.
I felt bad for the chick that was hanging because she was literally hanging upside down for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And, she's got like blood going into her mouth and shit.
And then we think we're going to get something different after that because, the fucking, what's her name, Drukija, Countess of Blood, goes into the woods. And we're like, all right, well, where's this going? And she just goes and apparently feeds parts of her victims to a wolf.
Just straight up steak.
Yeah, it's literally just steak. You could tell the difference between human flesh and beef. Trust me, we should know. Yeah. We've eaten both, clearly. But anyway, she just feeds this wolf steak and commands it to bring her new victims.
Despite the fact that she still has like a full...
Yeah, she still has a bunch of chicks. 1, 2, where did this come from?
Yes.
3, does she apparently have powers over this wolf? Anyway, the wolf goes off, and then the next shot is her with a chick on her lap.
Yeah.
in some fucking dungeon somewhere. I guess her mini dungeons that she has. And then she rips that chick's heart out and bathes in that blood. And you're like, what is this?
Yeah, and that effect in particular looks kind of like feces.
And yet it's sadly kind of one of the most effective ones.
Yeah, I mean, you get this like wax titty body.
Yeah, it's shit, but it's one of the more effective ones. Bad. If you're in the gore, if you're in this for the gore, you're gonna be fucking sad. But anyway.
Oh yeah. And I think that scene visually looks okay. Like, keep in mind when I say it looks okay, that is just in this movie. Yeah, in this movie. You know, like that shot looks fine. It's just sucky.
That's not even what matters. What matters is that it means nothing.
Yeah, it means nothing.
It's just her sucking blood out of a heart that she's ripped out of the cavity of this chick's, titty chest. I mean,
good one.
And that's it. And you're like, dude, we just saw 3 hideously long bloodbath sequences and still no story. There's a part where she's admiring herself in a mirror, which we alluded to earlier, about the rejuvenating effects of the blood. And again, it's one of those where you're like, why didn't he cut? Why didn't he cut? Yes, and it just goes on and on and on.
It's kind of a depressing scene because it goes on so long that you could see, that moment where like you could see the actress thinking to herself in pornos mostly, man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You get that like full force halfway through this scene,
and various times,
and then it continues for another half, and you're like, "Oh my god, dude, cut! This chick doesn't know what to do."
Yeah, and it's sad because by then you're kind of used to people not knowing what to do because he doesn't cut away, but this one actually manages to break the boundaries of that fucking phenomena. You're like, dude. Holy shit, you can see her falling apart inside trying to come up with something, but there's nothing. Like the story here, there's nothing. But then, all of a sudden, you get a chick that is escaping from her hold, and, then they capture her, and then she kills her, bathes in her blood, and then they burn the body, and that's the end.
And then it ends.
That's the end. There was no story. There was no fucking story, man.
There was nothing. And the only reason I mentioned that bit where she's in the throne looked okay is because since there is no story and there's nothing, you could at least think that he would try to make these look cool, these scenes, or cool for Danzig cool. You could at least make these scenes of her bathing in blood visually appealing.
But they're
instead
not.
You get it's nothing. It looks like ass. Maybe it looks a little better than the other two. Like when it comes, no, not really, because the other two had like creative lighting.
No, look, I'm gonna point out something, and I'm not saying they had the same budget, but Hostel 2 also was not a huge budget sequence. And there's a sequence where one of the, the club members, the elite club member people, was a female, and she lays in a fucking bare bones tub-like thing, naked, and uses a scythe to cut into a chick above her and bathes in her blood. It's both repellent, disgusting, and there's a weird morbid eroticism to it. I think that's what he was going for. In fact, I know that's what he was going for because it's Danzig, and he achieves none of it. It's neither sexy, it's neither morbid, it's neither cool, It's neither scary, it's neither gory. It's just shitty.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like since there is no story, at least try to make it interesting visually. And
this is the one, by the way, that's
feces.
Yeah, this is the one that's most transparently just like this is Danzig enacting his sex fantasies on screen.
Yeah.
Only he didn't make a porno. He made a boring movie. No, I shouldn't say boring. No. It is the spectacle to watch, but it's not a good spectacle. But that's kind of why you should watch it, because people are calling this a movie on on the level with The Room. I think The Room is way funnier because it's so bad, but this is definitely something that must be seen for that reason. It's awful, and that's the reason to see it.
Yeah, it's like it's I said this several times during the movie, where like you don't have nothing else to say but this is embarrassing for the people that are in the movie, especially in that last one, and the fact that Danzig made this and thought it was cool.
Yeah, man.
Like it's embarrassing. It's funny though. So at least I didn't waste my time. But at the same time, that last story was a complete waste of time, and it was stretching my freaking limits of my sanity, dude.
Yeah, it does. Because it's not a story. That's
No.
the long and short of it. That last one is not a story. The second one is not a story either, but it has things and elements in it that make you think this is going somewhere.
And then it doesn't.
And it's got that cop that really saves the day. But that third one is literally a fart of a fucking thing.
Because a fart,
Here's the weird part.
Not really, because a fart has a beginning and an end.
That's true. It's an eternal fart.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Elizabeth Bathory's story, if you're familiar with it, is super interesting. There's a variety of avenues you could have taken to at least make, even on the limited budget, to at least make... Dude, let me put it this way. Elizabeth Bathory, the historical character, yes, bathed in the blood of virginal innocence from her village that she cherry-picked and got away with it because she was an elite. That's the concept he went with, only shitty. But she's literally one of the few historical bad guys that had a deformed midget assistant.
Damn.
How the fuck do you not take advantage of that shit?
And there's an assistant in this one that keeps saying, Contessa!
Yes, a shitty assistant that's clearly a porn star.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Right?
She looks so familiar.
Yeah, I know, dude. I've not seen that face.
Like, damn, who is that? Anyway, she has an assistant. You could have made her deformed and hideous.
Anything.
And like, hell yeah, that's my little deformed little friend right there.
Alas,
Who
nothing.
says that?
Nathan. So anyway, Danzig's Verotika. What is it called? I forgot the fucking name already. Look, man, this is on VOD. It's fixing to come out on physical form, and you know I'm about getting all the Danzig stuff, but I'm very much on the fence about this. On the one side, if I don't get it now, it becomes harder to get, and Danzig things go up in price big time. On the other end of the spectrum, this movie fucking sucks balls.
Yeah, your
my motive,
reason, to get it was that it came with a soundtrack.
Yeah, but the soundtrack
edition.
sucks.
The soundtrack here, unless you want that fake ass Rob Zombie and that shitty ass.
And I don't think that's included in it.
Oh, that sucks.
I think it's just the score and that one Danzig song.
If it has that one Danzig song, then you could probably download that and be happy with yourself. Because
it's man. It is on the other end of the spectrum. It is a spectacle.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
I want to own something this shitty.
If this was like $5, $10, worth it, because you could pop that in and have fun with it. But that's it. That's like what you should pay for it.
So yeah, man. And
that being said, go rent it.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things that's gonna be a cult. I mean, it kind of already is a cult success in the sense that it sucks. So anyway, let's go ahead and rate this.
Zero!
Go ahead. Zero?
Zero. I'm gonna even give you a rating for each one.
All right.
0 as a whole. I'm gonna go 1.5 for the spider story because he's my boy. You know what? I'm gonna give him a 2 because he's my boy and he had the nuts to show his.
All right.
0 for the second one. No, you know what? I'll give it a 1. And 0.0 for the last one, dude.
Yeah. Look, in comparison to any other movie in existence,
0.
This is a fucking fat goose egg. Comes straight out of my a-hole because I stuffed it up there because that was more entertaining than the movie.
Let me add one thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Though I just gave it a massive 0, this is not the worst movie I've seen this year. Jay and Silent Bob still is.
Yeah, I would rather watch this than Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yes.
In an instant. Like, big time.
This was funnier than Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, the fuck yeah it was. We had fun watching this because it sucked. Anyway, compared to any movie ever, this is a fucking 0. But it's a fun movie. If we're talking about crappy movies, compared to crappy movies, like The Room is one of our favorites. It's been a favorite. You know, we were on the Room train when that fucking shit was barely getting any fucking traction.
We were on the Ricky O train. Like, that's starting to come up now.
All that shit.
Yeah.
We like a crappy movie. So, compared to other crappy movies, again, this is a rating compared to crappy movies. I gotta emphasize that. This is a solid fucking 8.
Oh, shit.
It would have been higher, but that last story does test the limits of fucking common sense. You're like, shit, what is this?
Skip that shit.
But it is something that must be watched. Anyway, individual stories, realistically speaking, they're all zeros. But like your rating, I'm gonna go on a 1-by-1 basis. The first story, fun wise, I gotta give it a solid fucking like 9. We had a fun time tearing that shit apart.
Yeah.
The second story, like I said, it was my favorite, so I'm gonna give it a 9 too. Yes, it's mostly stripping, but dude, that cop really saves the fucking day. It sucks. It sucks badly in the best ways.
And 0.
And the last story is just god fucking awful. 0. No redeeming qualities whatsoever. It's terrible.
Yeah. I think
realistically, they're all zeros.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Like, obviously, when it comes to comparing it with any kind of film ever, it's a straight up 0. But fun factor, I guess, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Spidey guy, dude. Them underwears. 10.
Underwears sticking out, man. But anyway, if you like crappy French accents, look, this is like a long ass video, but this movie kind of deserved that. So this is not so much a review. We're not even gonna put this on the movie channel. We're putting it right here on $10 Slimer because this is a whole conversation about Danzig. Yeah, we're that guy and this movie that he just made.
We're Danzites, and this is a very interesting look into his world.
Yeah, this is definitely, if you like Danzig, this is what's going on in his mind 24/7. That and doing stupid ass poses like that and thinking it's cool. Yeah. I'd show you the inside of this, but as expected, it has a bunch of titties and shit because it's Danzig. Oh my god, dude, come on, man. Look, The Lost Tracks of Danzig was a release from his fucking label, Evil Live, that had all the stuff that should have been, that was kind of like cut out of the first 4 Rick Rubin produced Danzig classic fucking albums. So he released them on his own and really good stuff, but he had the opportunity to make this insert and
he did it, by the way.
Yeah, apparently he did it, but he didn't think that stretching the fucking picture out was a bad idea. Come on, dude.
That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, when someone puts like a YouTube thumbnail and they just stretch it out. Yeah, like
although he did include that.
That's awesome.
That picture right there. He's such a corny guy.
He toes the line between corn and cool like so well.
Yeah.
But sometimes he just straight dips into that nice and creamy. You know what I mean? Like straight up cream corn, dude.
God, man, the chicks he likes are always like these big boobed.
Boobed?
Yeah, boobed. Big hair, blonde, fake lips. I mean, I guess to each his own, but Danzig's a cornball, man. I can't ever take him seriously, but I like the guy, Ideologically, I disagree with him entirely, but there's just something about Danzig that's always appealed to me, clearly, so whatever, man. This was a fucking thing we saw. This is a thing we saw. And I can't say I regretted it because I didn't. So there's that. Do with that what you will. In the meantime, hit like, share, subscribe. If you're new to this channel, give us a shot with all the other stuff. Anyway, we're out.